Well, hello and welcome, fans, to another episode of 162 Times, your daily baseball recap and preview show. I'm your host, Daniel Turner. It's great to be with you. Is it great to be with you when the Mariners have been playing the way they have? Anyway, that's what we're going to do today. We're going to recap and preview the show. And so last night, which was Tuesday night, in Seattle, Washington, 9:40 p.m. Eastern at T-Mobile Park, the Mariners stood ready to face the mighty Baltimore Orioles, American League East leading Baltimore Orioles. And sadly, the Mariners fell in this one. They fell by a final score of 2-0 to the Orioles. The Orioles managed 9 hits, no errors committed by them. The Mariners managed 2 hits only. No runs, no errors. So what it does tell you is that the Mariners' pitching was pretty fabulous because they held a fantastic and strong offensive team to only 2 runs, and that their offense is abysmal because despite all that, they couldn't manage to push across even a few simple runs to bring them on par or better with the score placed by the men from Baltimore. Anyhow, with the loss, the Mariners dropped to 47-40, still first in the American League West. The Orioles moved to 54-31, first in the American League East. The winning pitcher was Grayson Rodriguez. He's now 10-3 with a 3.45 ERA. He was dominant, scary, very good. Loss went to George Kirby, who pitched a great game. He's now 7-6 with a 3.32 ERA. And the save went to Craig Kimbrell. The old veteran is 20th of the year, 2.30 ERA now on the season for Mr. Kimbrell. In terms of the pitching lines, the losing pitcher, George Kirby, 6 1/3, 7 hits, 2 runs, 2 earned, only 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. And that second earned run was pretty cheap. We'll talk about that in a second. The winning pitcher, Rodriguez, 6 1/3, 2 hits, no runs, 4 walks, 8 Ks. Then the Baltimore team gave the ball to Cano, 2/3 of an inning, 1 strikeout. Perez, 1 inning. And Kimbrell, 1 inning, 2 strikeouts. Seattle went with Austin Voth, 2/3 of an inning, 1 walk and a K. Great little section by him. Then it was Snyder, an inning and a hit. And Bauman, an inning and a hit and a K. Overall, Mariners only struck out 11 times, which is low for them, frankly. And they struck out the Orioles 7 times. The Orioles walked more Mariners. And yet, despite 95 superb pitches from George Kirby and 104 excellent pitches from Grayson Rodriguez, the Mariners dropped this one. M's left 7 on base. They were 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position. They only got 2 hits. Both of them came courtesy of Josh Rojas, the only real offensive thing to speak of for the Mariners. The Orioles, scattered 9 hits. They did quite well. In terms of scoring, top of 4, Anthony Santander singled in Gunnar Henderson. And then top of 7, Cedric Mullins singled in Jordan Westburg. And Westburg scored because Cedric Mullins is a bad man against the Mariners. He's got that Mariners killer mentality. What I will say is that Mullins and Cowser were thrown out by Cal Raleigh. He now has a league-leading 17 throwouts. Caught stealings to his credit, which is phenomenal. He's easily the Mariners' best player this year. Kirby allowed a couple hits in the 7th inning. All of them were on the ground, right up the middle, right over second base, and neither Polanco nor Crawford could get to them. And after I think the second one of those hits, Scott Service went out, and the Root Sports Northwest actually went to commercial because they thought it was a pitching change. But in that interim period, the TV just snapped back on, and it was George throwing to the next batter. And so I think he must have talked Scott out of taking him out of the game. And he got a couple pitches, and then Mullins hit the same dang ball that the other 2 had hit, this little squibber right up the middle. And then that scored the second run, and Service got up right away and then gave him the hook. So it was one of those interesting things where the pitcher managed to talk his manager out of pulling him from the game, but then it kind of backfired. But it didn't really, because he got the ground ball he needed. It just didn't go to one of the fielders. So anyway, it was interesting because last year Kirby got in a bit of hot water with a bunch of, yokels because he said in an interview after a game that he should have been taken out at a certain point, and a bunch of people got all riled up saying things like, well, you should never ask to be taken out of a game. That's not good, and yada. They were just calling him, they were calling him a chicken, basically. And so I'm wondering if that rubbed off and made him want to prove a point by fighting his manager on that decision. I don't think either of them made a bad decision, but in front of 36,000 people, if you walk out, get talked out of pulling the guy, and then give up another run and then have to go right back out there, you're probably not the most pleased manager in the world. And you're certainly not going to want to be the next Mariners pitcher who tries to question Scott Servais' wisdom in terms of how he should use his arms. So that was interesting. Also, Jorge Polanco, who I still like, got booed mercilessly by the Seattle faithful, which was interesting to see. There are a lot of people who think Tyler Locklear and Ryan Bliss should come back up. It is certainly true that 2 hits is not good enough, that they'll probably set a record for strikeouts again this year by a team in a season, and that, the big names haven't been producing. Julio batted 7th last night. He was 0 for 4 with 2 Ks, so that didn't help either. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about who we got tonight, because hope springs eternal. This is baseball. We're cruising towards the All-Star break. We're more than halfway through the season. The Mariners are still leading their division. They're still 7 games above 500. That's better than I can have said in a long time in my Mariners fandom. So tonight, good matchup. Mariners' best pitcher, Logan Gilbert, will be on the hill. Despite being their best pitcher and probably an all-star, he's only 5-4 with a 2.72 ERA and 102 Ks. He'll be going up against, I want to say Dean Kramer. Yeah, it's Dean Kramer, fellow from Stockton, California. He's 3-4, 4.32, 49 strikeouts in 50 innings pitched, and a 1.12 whip. He may have been hurt a little bit this season. He obviously hasn't pitched as much as the other Orioles starters. And the game will go at 10:10 p.m. Eastern time tonight. I don't like those late starts, but we will struggle through it. And we do have the lineups. So first up for the Orioles, it'll be shortstop Gunnar Henderson. Then it'll be Adley Rutschman, catcher. Ryan O'Hearn, first base. Ryan Mountcastle, DH. Anthony Santander, right field. Jordan Westberg, second base. Austin Hayes, left field. Cedric Mullins, center field. And Ramon Urias, third base, batting ninth. On the Mariners side of things, it'll be J.P. Crawford leading off and playing short. Josh Rojas playing third, batting second. Cal Raleigh catching, batting third. Luke Raley, left field, batting fourth. Ty France at first, batting fifth. Jorge Polanco will DH and bat sixth. Julio will bat seventh again and play center field. Dominic Canzone in right, batting eighth. And Dylan Moore in the lineup, batting ninth and playing second base. And we'll just check some of the Mariners roster moves real quick here. See if there have been any call-ups since the last time we talked to things. Yeah, so the one thing I do want to mention is that they called back up Sebi Zavala, so they've got a backup catcher on the roster now. And they sent right-hander Gregory Santos, who they signed in the offseason from the White Sox as like a power reliever. He's been assigned to do a rehab stint in Tacoma, so that's the level below the Mariners, so that's good news. And they signed free agent right-handed pitcher Chris Davinsky. And they optioned Jonathan Diaz down to Tacoma without having him start. I thought for a minute there they were going to have Diaz start another game, but no, he's back with the Rainiers. So that concludes that. Now, how did the other teams fare on Tuesday night? Well, I think that's where the good news part of this episode comes into play. Because the Blue Jays did everyone a favor by beating the Astros 7-6 in Toronto. Way to go, Jays. Don't hear me complaining about that. Now, the Rangers did blank the Padres 7-0. The Rays beat the Royals 5-1. The Athletics beat the Angels 7-5. The Twins beat the Tigers 5-3. The Guardians beat the White Sox 7-6. The Reds beat the Yankees 5-4. That pretty much concludes the American League scorebook. Cards over the Pirates 7-4 in the National League. Red Sox over the Marlins 8-3 in interleague play. Mets over the Nats 7-2 in 10. Giants over the Braves 5-3. Phils over the Cubs 6-4. Brewers over the Rockies 4-3. And the Dodgers over the D-backs 6-5. So, good stuff out there. I'm feeling a little bit better about tonight. Let's get a victory in the series, Seattle, and we'll check in with you soon. Bye.